Chapter 2. Sir Linda Javas was drunk, or at least Poe was fairly certain that Black Squadron's Squamadan pilot was drunk. Why else would she be up on that stage doing? Well, he wasn't exactly sure what she was doing. Poe shook his head. He loved Black Squadron, would die for any one of his pilots, but sometimes he wondered. When Prime Minister Grist had invited Black Squadron for a celebratory drink to toast their victory in securing Grail City against the First Order, it had been politic to accept. He knew his job here was to part pilot and part diplomat, and anything he could do to assure a crook's support of the resistance was something he had to do. Shouldn't they be happy enough that we saved their butts from the bad guys? Jess Pava grumbled when Poe told Black Squadron they'd be going to a party. Don't you like a party, Jess? Sir Linda asked, laughing. I mean, I can't think of a better reason to have a drink than survival. Besides, I'd love to get a quote or something from the Prime Minister. Something I can really use to make the story sing. You're writing a story? Poe asked, surprised. Of course I'm writing a story, the pilot turned journalist turned back to pilot said. She shook her head. Her brown eyes said in mock disappointment. When are you going to get the hang of this public relations thing, Poe? My journalistic skills are an asset to resistance, but only if we get our story out there. And what a story it will be, with Grist praising our ragtag group of heroes, saving her and the planet from the evil First Order. Ragtag? After Crate, that was closer to reality than Poe cared to admit. That's not a story, that's just the truth, Jess said. Poe looked at her sharply, wondering if she knew how bad things were for the resistance. But his fellow pilot was guileless. Of course it's the truth, Sir Linda said, sounding annoyed. I don't lie, I just... Sir Linda laid a hand as if conjuring something out of thin air. Embellish. Jess folded her arms across her chest and let her long black hair fall across her face, unimpressed. Poe had noticed that her and Sir Linda's relationship was often strained, but if he thought about it, it was no more contentious than anyone's relationship with Sir Linda. She was an old friend of Poe's from his Navy days, but she was hard to pin down, even at the best of times. Her loyalty seemed to shift, and eventually land back on Sir Linda alone, but he couldn't deny that she had been there for him in Black Squadron when they most needed her, including right here at Grail City. Jess wouldn't have gotten the defense system back up without Sir Linda's help, and it was good for everyone to remember that. Even if Sir Linda sounded selfish now, Poe knew she would have their backs when push came to shove, and that's what mattered. So, Sir Linda said, hands on her hips, who's up for a party? Pass, Jess said, turning away. I want to check out my astromech. After what I put the little guy through. Sir Linda grunted disapprovingly. Poe, surely you're coming. I kinda had to. It would be rude not to. Exactly. She slid her arm around Poe's and pulled him along before she looked over her shoulder at the other two members of Black Squadron. Kara, Snap, here to join us? Temin Wexley, whom everyone called Snap, took the hand of his wife, Kara Kuhn, and motioned Poe and Sir Linda forward. Lead the way. I want mine to drink. I hear a crook makes a great ale. It's fine to have a drink. Poe said, but I need everyone to keep your eyes and ears open too. Anything you find out may prove useful. He paused, looking over his shoulder. BB-8? You coming or staying? The little droid beeped his reply. Keep an eye on the ships for us then. And how about Jess out if she asks? BB-8 whirled, sounding distressed. I'm not going to hurt you, Jess protested, clearly offended. Poe kept the grin from his face. He knew droids called Jess the Great Destroyer because how many astromechs she sent to the scrapyard, but he trusted her with BB-8. As long as they stayed on the ground. Have fun, Jess said, sighing, her hands on her hips and eyes on the astromechs who were all now conferring with BB-8. We will, Cerelinda said, smiling big enough to show her needle's sharp teeth. Which were as much as a part as her. Squamish heritage as her blue skill and talon nails. We'll have fun. And we'll get some information. Win-win. Jess waved them away over her shoulder, already focused on the droids. The four of them headed to the palace where Prime Minister Griss of the Crook waited for them. That had been an hour ago. Poe had politely nursed in a crook ale for that hour. He'd taken a single sip under the Prime Minister's watchful eye. The dark, bitter brew had sat like engine fuel on his tongue, but he'd managed to swallow it down without a telltale grimace. He then proceeded to circulate through the party, engaging in small talk with the guests, looking for the signs Leia had told him that would reveal loyalties and uncover motivations. He made mental notes as he moved among the civic leaders and politicians, and what he saw worried him. There was doubt here, fear that perhaps fighting back had only doomed a crook to a more brutal invasion in the future, that perhaps First Order occupation wouldn't be so terrible, that cooperation was a more viable strategy than war, and that maybe there was even financial profit in joining the First Order. Poe held his tongue through it all, but inside he wanted to scream. Black Squadron had risked their lives to save this city, this planet, and now Grail City was questioning whether it had been the right thing to do. He wanted to shout that they were cowards, all of them, ready to bow down to the First Order to save their own tails and line their already well-lined pockets without concern for what occupation would do to the average citizen on the street. He wanted to warn them that occupation might seem reasonable now, but they allowed the First Order to establish itself on the planet. The grip that began to as loose would inevitably tighten until the crook was choking, but he didn't. Instead, he circled back to the Prime Minister. Are you enjoying the party? Prime Minister Griss asked politely, a dour eye on Poe's almost untouched ale. Poe gave up all the pretenses of drinking, handing the glass off to a passing server. I was hoping we could talk about a crook's promise to aid the resistance. Promise? Griss said, voice fluttering in distress. I don't recall a promise. Poe pressed his lips together. When he had first talked to Griss, fresh off Black Squadron bringing down the First Order ship that had threatened to liberate Grail City, she indeed made promises about doing whatever she could do to aid the resistance. But now, a few hours later, and her city on immediate danger, it appeared her memory was conveniently failing her. It's not what we don't want to help, Griss said, sounding regretful. We are grateful, and we wish we could do more to show our appreciation for your cause. But my engineers have reported substantial damage not only to our defense system, but also within the city itself. It seems the First Order sympathizers tried to destroy as many cultural centers as they could before they were defeated. It's imperative we rebuild immediately, so the people understand the First Order cannot beat us. You understand? I don't think I do, Poe said, a touch of anger in his voice. He wondered if he should mention that the rallying the First Order's sympathizers might need to continue within her own cabinet, but not decided that wouldn't win him any points. He was trying to be diplomatic. Well, as close to diplomatic as he could manage. He had never been known for this tact. The Prime Minister's golden eyes faded around the edges. Oh dear. It's not that I don't appreciate your situation, Poe said, doing his best to rein in his irritation. But you have to understand the urgency of our situation. Of course, and I can promise you that the First Order will find no purchase here. Are you sure that? It was out of his mouth before he could stop himself. Gris blinked. She took a moment, as if to reset her own tempo, before she said, Yes, I am certain. But we simply cannot actively support the resistance. We are already a target for First Order occupation. I don't dare give them more costs to return. However, in appreciation for your efforts on our behalf, I'm happy to provide you with fuel and food enough to see you on your way. Gris' well-managed smile was brittle. And there it was, the dismissal. Poe knew a lost cause when he saw one, and while he usually took on more than a share of lost causes, a critic didn't feel like one he was interested in fighting for. He made noises about being grateful, and he excused himself from the helpless conversation, more disturbed than he let show. He couldn't help but worry. If a planet fresh from a First Order attack was this reluctant to take a chance to aid Leia's resistance, what would a planet that hadn't seen the violence up close think? Maybe Serlinda, in her ragtag hero story, did have a point beyond embarrassing them all. He'd have to talk to her about it more. See how maybe they could get the news on the hollow feeds. Past the political gatekeepers and into the eyes and hearts of the common people. But first, he had his own news to share with his thought. He had been putting it off for long enough. He found Snap and Kare huddled in the corner, their heads so close they almost touched as they talked. Kare's darkly tanned skin contrasted against Snap's paler shade, her blonde hair against his brown. They might be physical opposites in a lot of ways, but they were one of the most well-suited couples Poe knew. Their relationship always impressed him. Am I interrupting? He asked. Of course not, Kare said, easily making space for him. Join us. Poe sat on the low bench across from the couple, sinking into the deep cushions. He shifted his weight back and forth in an effort to get comfortable, but only succeeded in working his way deeper into the doughy seating. They do like a good pillow here, Snap said, laughing. All the furniture in the Prime Minister's cave palace was carved from the same rock as the walls that surrounded them. From the low flat benches to the equally low tables. It seemed to be the fashion here to soften all that hardness with rich fabric. So the palace was adorned with wide swaths of embroidered shimmer silks and wildly colorful paintings on the rock walls themselves. Cushions in a riot of colors were piled 2 or more deep in every seat. No kidding, Poe said. I feel like I'm sinking. It's kind of nice sitting in a pilot seat all the time, said Kare, countered. Nobody designed the next wing for comfort, that's for sure. Frustrated, Poe pulled the cushion off the bench and dumped it on the floor on his feet, revealing the hard stone beneath. He sat on the bare rock. That's better. Snap and Kare laughed, and Poe grinned back. He looked at his friends with deep fondness. I'm glad you're both here, he said, his voice earnest. I mean, it was close up there. It's always close, Kare said. How'd the talk with the Prime Minister go? Snap asked. Worse than expected, he admitted. I don't think the resistance is going to find support here. After we saved them? Poe shrugged, a wave of resignation rolling over him. Not everyone sees it that way. They're scared, Kare said. Of the First Order. We're all scared, Snap said softly, but we fight anyway. Poe pressed his palms together, suddenly feeling anxious. He knew he had to tell Snap, Kare, and the rest of the Black Squadron what had happened on Crate, what was left of the Resistance, and the part he had played in it all. But he wasn't looking forward to it. There's something we need to tell you, Poe, Snap said before Poe could see. He glanced at his wife, Kare, who gave him an encouraging nod. It didn't go so well back on Pistoria, that first planet on our mission brief. I don't want to say we were duped into doing dirty work for some scrupulous jerk. He spread his hands, a gesture of helplessness. We thought we were doing the right thing. Kare rested a hand on her husband's knee, her voice gentle. Yeah, Poe said. Jess sent a transmission out when she and Sir Linda were trying to restore the planetary descent system here. She was afraid she wouldn't make it, and she wanted someone to know what had happened just in case. Snap's shoulders tensed. We were lied to, sure, but that doesn't change the fact we picked the wrong side in the Civil War. Heck, we shouldn't have been picking sides to begin with. We thought we were protecting the government, but instead we only had to take out the opposition party, Kare further explained. It was a disaster. It was a screw-up of epic proportions, Snap agreed. Trust me, I got my own script to tell you what makes yours look reasonable. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. He looked at each of his friends in the eye, not sure how they were going to take the news, but knowing it was more important than ever, they understood what they were all up against. You know who Vice Admiral Hodel is, alright? Well, a screech that rattled the walls pulled him up short. The three turned to see Sir Linda, front and center, on a raised dice that functioned as a stage. The Prime Minister had given a reasonably laudatory speech about Black Squadron's rescue of Grail City from the days when they first arrived. Then seated the spot to a three-piece band. They had been playing some kinds of innocuous background party music all night, until now. A deep thumping bass emanated from a flat drum-like instrument that the musician stamped with a foot, and a sonorous wind instrument of some kind joined in, lacing the melody around the heavy beat. And then Sir Linda, "What in the world is that noise?" Snap asked. Kare had instinctively clapped her hands over her ears. "I think she's singing?" They listened a bit longer, and sure enough, Poe could make out words. The shrill trills and warbles. Poe had visited a lot of worlds and seen a lot of unsavory things, even done a few himself, but seeing Sir Linda belting out to a tune helped to rank up there with the worst. "Is she drunk?" he asked anyone who was listening. "I mean, she has to be drunk." Kare shook her head. "No, I think that's just her singing voice. Squamatons aren't known for their musicality." Sir Linda raised her hands over her head and kicked out a long leg. She swayed her hips from to one side and then the next, then came up on her toes. "Order dancing," Kare added drily. "That's our cue." Poe stood up. "Time for Black Squadron to make our exit. We got another mission, and it doesn't involve attending this party, or, mercifully, Sir Linda singing and dancing. You both ready to get out here?" Snap and Kare were on their feet immediately. "Seriously, Poe," Snap said. "I thought you'd never ask." They waited until Sir Linda mercifully short rendition of whatever song she was crooning to leave. Black Squadron departed to a round of surprisingly enthusiastic applause for their heroism or for removing Sir Linda from the stage. Bo wasn't sure, but he took a deep and refreshing breath of fresh air once they were out of the palace. "Not your scene?" Snap asked, standing next to his commanding officer. Poe shivered. It was colder out here in the Rocky Mountains after the sun set. Beyond him was the wide expanse of a starry sky. Somewhere out there was Leia and what was left of the resistance, and they were counting on him. I love a party, Poe said, slapping Snap on the shoulder, but we've got work to do. Let's get back to Jess and the ships, and I'll fill everyone in. Snap nodded, and they all rejected their steps down to the winding mountain path of their ships. Sir Linda was in a fine mood and kept the chatter up with Kare, who seemed to be taking the whole night in stride. Around them, Grail City was celebrating, and music and laughter filled the night. Colorful lights spilled from windows, and the smell of roasting meats wafted down to make their mouths water. "This is a nice place," Snap said quietly. "I'm glad we could help them out." "Yeah," Poe said, but he wondered how long Grail City would remain a nice place, and how long it would take the First Order to try again. And if they did, whether Grail City would fight them or welcome them in. He thought about pressing his case, even trying to force Grist's hand for the sake of her city. But he knew where the path probably led, and he wouldn't do that again. He shivered involuntarily. Well, it was Prime Minister Grist's problem now. He just hoped she was up to the challenge. The X-Wings, Sir Linda's A-Wing, and Poe's loner from the Gracchus, the hut, huddled together on the open landing strip, shadowy masses of the growing darkness. Poe's keen eyes scanned the area, looking for Jess. He caught sight of her, apparently napping between the boxes of food rations and fuel cells that Grist's people had already delivered. Well, at least the crook kept her word about that, he thought, and quickly. Grist really did want them gone. "Hey, Jess," he called as he approached. No answer. He tapped a nearby box with Cho. "Wake up, Peppa. Peppa, we got a mission brief." Jess' eyes popped open for a moment, and she looked terrified. Poe stepped back. "You okay?" "Oh," she sat up, shaking off of what was left of her sleep. "Yeah, bad dreams is all. I thought for a minute when I was back on, well, never mind." Poe squatted down beside her. "You're having nightmares? Something I should know about?" "What? No." She flushed and rubbed self-consciously on her neck. "I mean, no more than usual." "Right." Poe held out a hand and helped her to her feet. "I tell you to report to medbay for an eval, but..." She grimaced. "Kind of impossible. Besides, I'm fine." "I think Jess is having nightmares like Anakin would when he had his premonitions about Padme and his mother dying. And he thinks she's lying about it. And he huffy, Papa. Truth is, it's only going to get harder from here." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "Come on, let's gather the others." He motioned the rest of the back squadron over, and they gathered by their ships under the stretch in the night sky. And he told them everything. The car evacuations that led to the loss of the Resistance Bomber Squadron, of the slow chase across space, of Rose Tico and Finn's mission to Canobi, of his own insubordination and demotion, and finally of the Battle of Crate and all they had lost, and what little they had left. "I don't understand," Jess said, her voice an octave too high. "They're gone? The fleet is gone?" "They can't be all gone," Kare countered. "Can't they, Poe?" "I'm sorry," he said, head lowered. I like how it alludes to The Last Jedi there. And Poe's experience. "Oh," she covered her mouth with her hands and turned away. Snap gathered her to his chest. Poe could see tears in his eyes. "The people too? Are you sure?" "Jess," Poe said gently, "I was there. The Resistance." He spread his hands. "It's pretty much the Falcon and us." Silence, as Poe let it sink in. Just how bad it all was. Just how desperate they were. And how much of their situation was his fault. "I understand you if you want to leave. I mean, if you want to leave without me. Black Squadron seemed to be doing fine without my presence. But if you stay and allow me to lead you, I will do everything in my power to make it up to you. That I promise." He closed his mouth and waited. And for their confusion, for their judgment, for their disavowals. When all he got was silence, he looked up. Snap was the first to see. That's some heavy stuff, Poe, he said, his voice serious. I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me. I understand. But, Snap continued before he could finish. Didn't I just tell you about a massive disaster on Pastoria? People died because we let ourselves get played. We have to live with that too. The droids like to call me the Great Destroyer, Jess added. Still, I mean, it's not like I'm trying to get them killed, but they all end up scrap all the same. Well, and I'm pretty sure my middle name is insubordination, Sir Linda added. But that's because I misunderstood. I'm not making excuses for... You're going to have to face your mistakes, Poe, Kara said. I make amends when you can, but you do it with Black Squadron at your side. You're not getting rid of us that easily. Besides, it sounds like all we got is one another, screw-ups and all. The heaviness the Poe had been carrying lifted a bit. They weren't seeing what he did was okay. But they weren't going to abandon him either. I'll work to make it better, he said quietly. Shame heavy on his shoulders. I swear it. And then there were arms around him, face too close and steady words of encouragement. Poe soaked it all in like a dying man given an impossible reprieve. He had hoped that Black Squadron would forgive him, if only enough to let him stay on as their leader, but he had never dared to dream they might actually understand him. After the group hug broke up and the camaraderie settled, Poe took a step back, raising a hand. Now it's time to talk about what's next. Revenge? Jess asked, voice rough with emotion. Poe knew she had been friends with many of the people lost when the First Order shot down their escape pods over a crate. Eventually, Poe said, but not quite yet. Leia's given us a mission. Well, a continuation of the mission she first assigned Black Squadron. The Resistance needs not just allies, but leaders. So we're to narrow our search to specific people, strategists, thinkers, elders, that we think can help us rebuild quickly. Makes sense, Kare said thoughtfully. Any ideas where we start? Yeah, and Snap, you might not like this one. Snap frowned, thick arms crossing his chest. Why is that? I want you and Kare to talk to Wedge and Tilly's. Snap's eyes widened almost theatrically. He shook his head, one sharp no. Negatory, Poe. Wedge is tired. Settle down with my mother on the Kiva. The last thing they need is me showing up and dragging them back into war. They earned their rest. I know, Percy Poe said sympathetically. I wouldn't ask if we weren't desperate. No way my mom is going to want them to go. I know that too, and I'm counting on it. I want Nora to join us too. Snap Wexley made a deep guttural sound. His broad chest. My mom? She's nuts, you know that, right? She's a darn good pilot. She's great, but she's also nuts. All the best pilots are, Sir Linda murmured, loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh my goodness, Wedge Antilles is back. Baby. The hero of Yavin and Endor returns at last. You don't get it, he pressed. She has no self-preservation instinct. Did you know that she once jettisoned herself in an escape pod over Jakku, all to chase an Imperial Admiral through a blockade? Poe held back a grin. It wasn't that crazy. We need her, Snap. She's going to get herself killed. Kare rested a hand on Snap's arm. She survived this long, and with Wedge will be at her side, he'll keep her grounded. They could be a real asset to the resistance. Snap looked helplessly at his wife. They're the only family I've got. You got me, his wife said soothingly. You got all of us, Poe added. We're in this together. Isn't that what you said to me? Snap closed his eyes, exhaling. He dropped his head back, face tilted towards the stars. Okay, Kari and I will go to Akiva and talk to them. Let them know what's going on with the resistance. I'm not going to force them. They're old. No older than Leia, Poe thought, but he kept his opinion to himself. No need to push Snap any harder than he already was. What about me? Just asked. I don't have any notorious rebel leaders in my family. Poe spread his hands. I'm open to ideas. Actually, I think I have a lead, Zorlinda offered. It's kind of weird. Go on, Poe said. Back at the party, I heard Grist and some others talking. Well, complaining about rumors coming out of Rat Attack that some old Imperial had claimed power over one of the warlord factions are there. They were thinking someone should put an end to that, but that's because they lack vision. What are you suggesting? I'm saying that this old Imperial, whoever they are, has the leadership skills to unite a war clan. I mean, rat tactics, no joke, right? You have to be willing to do violence, sure, but you also have to be smart. Okay. So, doesn't that sound like someone who could be an asset for the resistance? They're an Imperial, Jess protested. Former Imperial, Zorlinda countered. And you know a lot. Those who have no love for the upstart First Order, maybe we can make them an offer. We're not bribing people to... No. Oh, Zorlinda cut him off. I'm talking about a good story. A chance of redemption. To make up for the evils the Empire committed. They're likely a sympathizer, Jess complained, but her voice softened a bit. Or it's just likely they're horrified by what happened to the Hosian system and worried about anyone having something like Star Killer Base back at their disposal ever again. Some of these Imperials were just caught up in the machinery, you know. They're not all evil. Jess rolled her eyes. Are you kidding me? Jess, Poe said gently. Zorlinda might have a point. Not that these people are responsible for their crimes, but they might have something to offer the Resistance. And something the Resistance can offer them in turn. Even as he said it, the words struck close to home. Was he talking about former Imperials, or was he talking about himself? Redemption? She said, eyes cutting to Zorlinda, as if they deserve it. Not redemption, Poe said. Penance. Just quieted. They all did, likely wondering what it would take to atone for crimes as dark and horrifying as those the Empire committed, wondering if they could judge. Well, Zorlinda said brightly, breaking the silence. You never know until you ask. Let me just go ask. Go to Rat Attack, Poe said, and Zorlinda beamed. But you have to take Jess with you. What? Both women said at the same time. Makes sense, Snap said, grinning. The two women started to protest, but Poe held up a hand. They fell silent. It's the only way I'm saying yes. It's too dangerous to send only one of you. You go as a pair, or you don't go at us all. Zorlinda pursed her lips, considering. It was Jess who held up her hand first. Are we going to do this? Zorlinda never wanted to hold on a bad mood broke. She shook Jess' hands. You bet. Good, Poe said, relieved. He wasn't sure if the two of them would go for it, but it hadn't been so difficult. Despite their differences, their success at Grail City showed the two women made good partners, and that there was something positive to find out Ratatic, they would uncover it, and hopefully keep each other alive along the way. So we know where we're headed, Snap said. Where are you going, Poe? It's not too late for you to go see Wedge yourself. Training at the academy after all. Can't, Snap. BB-8 and I are going to find an old friend and ask a favor. And that's the end of Chapter 2. Make sure you follow the Resistance Reborn reading series by hitting the bell icon and subscribing to my channel. And until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.